This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll be showing you how to construct a sheet cake. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to use the following steps to fill and frost our sheet cake and kind of prep it for decoration. First off, we're going to attach that bottom layer to our cake board. So you want to start with the cake board. Ours is going to be a cake drum. Yours could be a cake cardboard, anything. The important part there is to make sure that board is at least 2 inches bigger than your sheet cake. So you have room not only to get that sheet cake on there and frost it, but also to put a border on the bottom without running into your frosting when you go to pick it up, move it, or put it in a box. Next up, we're going to fill that cake. So whether it's buttercream or filling, you want to get that layer of filling down. If you're using a loose filling, pipe yourself a border around the edge and then put the filling in the middle. We're then going to add our second layer of cake, and you'll notice I'm going to keep it in the pan and use the pan to transfer it over. We're doing just a small sheet cake as a demo, but when you start doing increasingly large ones, like maybe saying a half sheet cake size, it's going to become increasingly important. That pan will help support that layer and ensure that nothing's breaking or cracking as you're transferring it over. Next up, since we've got both of our layers on there, we're going to crumb coat it. So we're going to give it a nice thin coat of frosting that's going to help pick up any crumbs we've got going on. And we're going to give it a chill between our steps. And then we're going to frost it. So we're going to put on a nice layer of buttercream, work to get ourselves some nice straight sides, some crisp corners, and a clean transition to a nice flat top. When you're done frosting your cake, then it's time to decorate. So we can do any decorations we want to put on there, and we can also put on borders if we're going to. To frost our sheet cake today, we're going to use a couple of simple pieces of equipment that if you're into decorating cakes, you probably have on hand. First up, I'm going to use my small offset spatula. If you have a larger version of this, you can use that as well. I'm going to use my favorite bowl scraper to help me when I'm frosting my cake, along with a bench scraper, and that's going to help me get nice straight sides. I've got a single bag loaded with some extra buttercream. I've just used some extra white, but you can use any color you like. And we're going to be making our borders with this. So I've loaded up my bag and used a number 21 tip. You could use anything that's round, either star or round tips, that's got a nice large opening, like a 12, or any of those larger numbers, maybe like a 199 star tip, to make your borders with. That's really a personal preference. And finally, we've got our cake board. We're using a nice cake drum. Ours is 10 by 14, so it's giving us a lot of extra space in addition to our cake. So we have plenty of room to put on borders and get it safely and cleanly into a box. First up, we've got our cooled layers of our cake. So it's baked and it's come to room temperature, and I'm just going to use my spatula to gently go along the sides of the pan and make sure my cake is free from that pan. This is going to help it, along with the parchment that we put underneath our cake, to make sure that it releases easily and evenly without anything sticking. Next up, we're going to attach that bottom layer of our cake to our cake board. So I've got my cake board here. I'm just using my bag of frosting. You could use a swipe easily, but I want to give myself a nice bit of frosting there on the bottom to attach that cake to. Our next step is to put down our first layer. So it's going to be nice and easy to get it over there. I can feel mine even released as I was flipping it. If you're a little worried about that, you can always meet the board to the cake and then flip it over as one. And I'm just going to take a moment while it's still on and in the pan, because that's an easy way to move it, and see if we're nice and in the middle. So check your width on each side and make sure you've got it nice and centered before you lift that pan up. And if yours feels a little stuck, you can always give it a nice thump to help release it. And then we're going to just peel off our paper. So that was just the parchment that was on there from when we were baking. Our next step is frosting or filling the inside of our cake. So nice big dab of buttercream. Better to use more than you think you need. And just gently work it out with your spatula. So think about going in all directions and pushing it to the edges. If you're used to working on round cakes, this might feel a little funny at first, going on a rectangle or a square. But think about going vertically and then horizontally. And if you need to, put on more buttercream. More is better in this case because we want to make sure we have a nice buffer between our cake and our spatula, and we're not picking up crumbs. And doing that when you're on the inside of your cake is good practice for when you're on the outside. And I'm not going to worry if I've got a little overlap hanging over the edges because we'll pick that up when we're frosting the sides. And if you ended up with too much, you can just return it right to your bucket as long as you didn't pick up any crumbs with it. It's time to add our second layer. So I'm going to use my cake pan to help get it on there and have it nice and supported. And I'm also going to use it to line it up because you can see I can make sure those edges match in the spacing before starting to tilt it. And I can lift it up and flip it over. And if it's still in that pan, I can use the pan to kind of help move it into position. So if you get a little off, just take your time and gently wiggle things around. You've got frosting on there, so it should slide into place for you. And just make sure that you're nice and centered on top of that bottom layer. When you've got everything centered, you can then just lift your pan. Same thing. If it gets a little stuck, grab the whole thing, give it a bit of a thump, or you can even use your spatula to get under there and help it release. But if you've got the paper on the bottom, it should release for you. And then we can check it. Make sure you don't need to move it. While it's still got that paper on, it's going to be easy if you need to give it a nudge. You can even put that pan back in place and nudge it a little too. But if you like the spot it's in, just go ahead and peel that paper off. Our next step is to crumb coat our cake. So we've got some nice buttercream. Mine is nice and soft, and I just want to put on a nice thin layer covering the surface of my cake. So I'm just going to go across the top first, pick up some extra anytime I need to, and I'm just basically just a nice see-through coating just to pick up those crumbs. Once you're done crumb coating the top, start the sides. And if you've got any extra buttercream sticking out from between the layers, this is a good chance to pick it up and just mask those sides of your cakes. And just keep working a little bit of buttercream at a time until you get back to the beginning. And I would give my cake just a nice spot check. Just turn it around, make sure you've got all that surface covered, you've covered up any little air pockets or anything else, and then we're going to pop it in the refrigerator to give it a chill. You're going to need to give it at least 10 to 15 minutes. You really just need that thin layer on the outside to set up. We've chilled our crumb-coated cake, so now it's time to start frosting. And we're going to start with the top of our cake, and we're just going to do a nice big dab of buttercream and just gently work it out. And we get a nice even layer, add more. The key here is to keep a nice buffer between the spatula and that crumb coat, so we're not encouraging ourselves to pick up any crumbs, and we're getting it nice and level. So anytime you need to, just add a little more buttercream if you feel like you're running out. If you get excess, it's just going to end up hanging over the sides, and you can pick that up when you ice the sides of your cake. Just keep working until you get past all of those corners. Think about having that frosting hang over the edge a little bit. That's going to be great. It's going to make it easy to pick it up when you go around the sides, and it's going to make it easy to get nice corners that don't kind of drop off on you and look like those kind of like sloped shoulders that you get sometimes. So if you've got frosting there, it's going to be easy work to make it nice and level. For the sides, I'm going to load up the back of my spatula, just gently work it back and forth, kind of barely rocking it, and going all along the side of my cake. So anytime I run out of frosting to push, just load up my spatula again and get right back to it. So I'm just going to go until I get all the way down to the end and push it a little past the end of my cake. We're going to do the second side of our cake now, and you can see the frostings come past the edge there and over the top. I'm giving myself frosting to meet up with, and that's going to help me get nice corners on my sheet cakes. And so I'm just going to push all along the edge, doing the same that I did on the front, and making sure I go out past the sides of my cake just a little bit, just like we want to go overhanging the top of our cake. And if you need more frosting to do that, just add a little to the back of your spatula and get a nice thick application there on the sides. And we're going to go now on our final side and do the same thing we have on the rest of them, just encouraging that frosting to meet up that extra with each of our other sides that it touches. I'm going to quickly use my bowl scraper just to go over my sides, and you can see when I get to those corners, it helps to make easy work of them if there's a little bit of a buildup. So we can just basically cleanly swipe off that corner for ourselves and make a nice transition. I'm going to keep going. Just rotate my cake, go over those sides. It'll help to straighten them up and just push any frosting into place, any low spots or dips I might have, just like I do on the regular side of my cake. Once I've given it a pass with my bowl scraper, I'm going to use my bench scraper. This one can be laid flat on the surface, that bottom edge, to make sure we're getting a nice right angle. And I'm just going to give it a nice little drag. Across that surface, and that's going to help straighten up those sides. Give me nice kind of right angles. And if you've got a lot of buildup, you can always just clean it off really quickly. And you can see the sides of my cake already looking much better. Since we've done some work on our sides, it's time to clean up this top. You can see we've got this buildup all the way around the edge. So we just want to take our spatula, open that blade so we can see the bottom just a little bit, and then just gently swipe off. And that's going to allow us to remove that buildup, that excess, and also smooth out any imperfections we have in the top of our cake. So just take your time, go all the way around, and just gently remove any excess buttercream right there on the buildup. You can use this to level out any low spots if you have them, and just gently smooth the surface of your cake. So if I've got some air bubbles or anything else, I can just go across gently with my spatula and get rid of those. And there we have a nice iced sheet cake. If you've got some imperfections or some little low spots or dips or show through, you can always pop it in the fridge for 10-15 minutes and give it another quick pass with a thinner layer of buttercream. We've got a nice iced sheet cake, so we're going to finish ours up today with just a simple border. We're going to do a shell border, and I'm going to start on the top and then change positions and go down to the bottom. And I'm not going to worry about absolutely perfect corners and sides because no one's going to see them. So we're just going to start in here and put a nice little shell border right on my edges. It's actually really easy to do these on square and rectangular shaped cakes because the transitions at the corners are nice and easy to handle. Just pause for a moment, change directions, and keep piping. You can stop and refill your bag at any time. And the only thing I would recommend is if you want to do anything like writing, you go ahead and do that first before you do any borders or other decorations. Because if you mess up and you need to scrape off and kind of re-level your cake, it's going to be much easier if there's nothing else on there. You can always give yourself a little star at the end to just make things meet up. Once you finish your top, I'm going to go in and do the bottom. For this, I just pull the bag out a little towards myself so I can get in there at an angle right at the base of my cake and pipe those beautiful little shells without knocking into things. And here we are. We're just coming back to finish up the end, our last side to do our little border, and we'll have a beautifully iced sheet cake that's ready for flowers or whatever else you want to add to your creation. We hope you enjoyed this lesson on how to construct a sheet cake. And if you did, you'll try checking out some of our fun, simple sheet cake design lessons. We know that some of you all asked for this one, so we hope it really helps you out on really banging out beautiful sheet cakes. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly supports our channel and helps us share more in-depth cake decorating lessons. Want to level up your skills? Our yearly membership has certificate programs from beginner and up. Learn more at cakedecoratingschool.com.